It's 6 o'clock. This is Sky News Breakfast. These are our top stories this morning. A warning that a new strain of coronavirus is spreading faster than previous variants. Amid reports the government is weighing up travel restrictions for London and the South East. Shutting up as cases rise, millions more people are placed under England's toughest restrictions and businesses face a bleak Christmas.
With the Christmas triple bubble coming, business has been sold down the river. We have been, I fear, we've been fed the wolves.
Another vaccine for the US. Moderna's coronavirus jab becomes the country's second to be rubber-stamped for emergency use. MPs raised concerns about the UK's overall state of readiness for the end of the Brexit transition as trade talks hang in the balance. And back to school, MPs called for more adult learning to help kickstart the economy. In sport, Toulon pull out of their Heineken Champions Cup tie against Scarlets just an hour before kick-off because of COVID concerns.
Lots of rain and very mild conditions yesterday. It stays fairly mild over the weekend, but still very unsettled. Sunshine and showers. Turns colder next week. All the details coming up.
Last year, and that's an awful lot to ask of volunteers. They've had to ramp up their training and make sure that the calls are answered, because they know that the people at the other end of that phone are absolutely depending on their expertise and their advice. And I think that it would be important for the government also to look at more funding for services like the National Breastfeeding Helpline, because their service is quite so essential and they do need to be seen as an essential service and funded properly. Women and babies have been left out, I feel, in all the conversations around lockdown. There's been very little consideration.
It swings its side spike to protect its side. It swings its back spike to protect its back from predators that are trying to eat it, like
is that they do naturally mutate all the time, and the ones that are likely to do well are the ones that increase transmission. And so we know that this is a new variant. It has been seen in other countries. But it seems to be quite widespread, which suggests that it has got a transmission advantage.
There are reports that ministers have discussed travel restrictions into and out of the southeast over Christmas, but a government source said nothing had been approved yet. Andy Moore, BBC News.
The United Kingdom is not fully ready for the post-Brexit trade talks to end in no deal. That's according to the head of the Commons Brexit Committee. The Labour MP Hilary Benn, who chairs the cross-party group, has warned that the government still can't provide certainty about what will happen in all the areas affected by the negotiations. Senior MEPs in the European Parliament say that an agreement needs to be made in the next 24 hours.
Italy will go into lockdown over much of Christmas and the New Year period in a bid to prevent a third wave of coronavirus. People living there will only be allowed to leave their homes for work or health reasons for 4-day periods over Christmas and New Year, as well as a 2-day period covering 12th night. Shops, bars and restaurants will be closed and travel between regions is banned.
A second coronavirus vaccine has been given emergency approval for use in the United States. More than 200 million doses of the American-made Moderna jab have been purchased by the US government, with 6 million due to be distributed this weekend. The USA has the world's highest number of COVID infections and deaths.
Now, most bosses and business owners want large firms to be forced by law to release statistics on the difference in pay between staff of different ethnicities.
That's according to the leaked results of a consultation launched by Theresa May in 2018. The government has still not published its response, but says it will do so in due course. As Layla Nathi reports.
Is there a hidden inequality in your workplace? A gap between what white staff and those from ethnic minorities are paid? In most organisations, employees don't know. There have been calls for larger companies to have to declare the disparity in earnings between workers in different ethnic groups. The professional services firm Deloitte is one of those that publishes its data voluntarily. Nadine is a consultant there, working with bosses to try to close their ethnicity pay gap, which last year was 14.5%.
It's not fair that I could be sitting next to someone in the office and they've got a different, they're earning more than me just because of the colour of my skin. It's if you really just think about it, it can be quite heartbreaking. But I think I use that to drive me forward.
2 years ago, the government launched a consultation on whether ethnicity pay gap reporting should be mandatory. Ministers have still not responded, but the BBC has seen a summary of the main findings. The document shows that 3/4 of employers and business groups backed a legal requirement for larger organisations to have to publish their figures.
What gets measured gets done. Our members want to disclose their ethnicity pay gap because they know this is such an important issue. And if they address this issue, they will have companies that are more diverse, more inclusive, more profitable, more innovative. It makes business sense and it's the right thing to do.
The Department for Business said it would respond to the consultation in due course and was working with firms to understand issues around data and methodology. Campaigners say openness about differences in pay between ethnic groups pushes conversations about inequality to the top of organisations and drives change. Ministers are still weighing up whether to impose transparency on businesses, but many say it should have already happened. Leila Nathu, BBC News, Westminster.
Stargazers could be in for a treat on Monday as Jupiter and Saturn are set to cross paths in a phenomenon which gives off a bright light and the appearance of a double planet. The event, known as a Great Conjunction, is the closest the pair have come for more than 400 years. It's thought that a similar occurrence could explain the Star of Bethlehem, which Christians believe was seen during the birth of Jesus. Quite excited about that.
Yeah, doesn't happen very often. The Queen was the first British monarch to give a televised Christmas Day address in 1957. Previously, it was only broadcast on the radio. And this year, the speech will be at the forefront of another technical innovation.
Yes, Amazon has announced that the annual message will be available on its voice-activated smart speakers from 3 o'clock on Christmas Day. Last year, the address was watched by 24 million people on the BBC and other major broadcasters.
See now, because I'm making my way through The Crown, Series 2, I know all about that first Christmas televised address because that's part of it.
Are you going to watch or listen to it?
Probably watch it, I expect.
Yeah, I think
I haven't got one of those little things in my house.
Have you not?
No, just in case.
It's coming up to 6:10. You're watching Breakfast. We're going to return to our top story now. And millions more people in England are waking up to life under the toughest COVID restrictions from today as the government tries to get rising rates of infection under control. Yeah, that means that 2/3 of the population, around 36 million people, can no longer visit pubs, restaurants and other indoor entertainment venues. Our correspondent Katie Austin has been hearing the concerns of some business owners which will be under the new rules.
We were brewing, ready to go for the Christmas period, ready to go, and yeah, we're going to have to pour a lot of that beer down the drain. Thousands and thousands of pints are now going to have to go to waste, along with the food. Fresh food. We will donate a lot of it that we can, but there's a lot of it that we won't be able to save.
There were nearly 100 bookings for Christmas Day dinners here, all of which must be cancelled.
We were fully booked up until the 28th of December throughout every single session. So we are actually going to have to be letting down quite a few people throughout now. We're losing between £15,000 and £20,000 profit alone next week based on the bookings that we had.
Just down the road, this hotel has also had its festive hopes dashed. It was due to welcome more than 160 diners for Christmas Day, many of them guests. Cancellations are another blow to end a tough year.
We've got a good £10,000–12,000 worth of stock which is just sitting there that we've got to work out what to do with. There's obviously things that we can freeze and there's a lot that we can't freeze. So we're going to be having a meeting today to sort of try and work out what we can do with that. Maybe we're going to try and do some takeaway stuff so that we can get rid of the stock that way. We're doing some promotions today on our last day, half-price cocktails, just so that we can try and get it down as much as we can. The staff, it's really a family business. That this is their home, this is their family, this is their Christmas, and now they're all having to make new arrangements. It's affected their mental health, definitely.
It's not just hospitality businesses affected. Bowling alleys in England couldn't reopen after the first lockdown until mid-August. This centre has upped its cleaning regime and introduced new screens to try and be COVID secure. Site manager Neil is disappointed that Tier 3 means closing again.
We are becoming very good at it. This is the third time we've done it. But naturally this evening when we close at 11, we're going to have items like food, drink that's going to naturally be wasted off. We're going to have to power everything down, make sure that it's safe for the period of closure. Closing at this point of the year, being in a Tier 2 situation, we're going to lose out on all of the families that have booked a bowl recently. We've already lost out on the gatherings and the Christmas corporate events, where companies are able to come and normally come in for their end of year Christmas parties. That's everything that we're going to lose at the drop of a hat.
Even in Tier 2, trade had been lower than usual. Now Neil, along with other staff, will be going back on furlough. Businesses like these say the extended furlough scheme and government support like grants and loans have helped, but crucial Christmas trade being cancelled is a significant setback. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Such a difficult time for those businesses in hospitality entering Tier 3, isn't it?
Let's have a look at the papers. It's 11 minutes past 6. Saturday morning's front pages. Several papers leading with the possibility that the UK could face a third lockdown after Christmas. This is the Daily Mail. It's beginning to look a lot like lockdown, it says, with a slightly Christmassy theme. The article claims that ministers are drawing up plans for Tier 4, which would see shops shut and many more people ordered to work from home. So it's sort of almost a halfway step to a full lockdown by the sounds of it.
The Mirror, meanwhile, describes a tsunami of coronavirus cases. It quotes the Prime Minister explaining that he can't rule out another lockdown.
The Telegraph says that the Oxford vaccine is expected to be approved on the 28th or 29th of December. It reports that football stadia will open from the first week of January to allow mass vaccinations.
And one of the most read stories on the BBC News website this morning is about Strictly Come Dancing, which ends with tonight's grand final. Maisie Smith, Bill Bailey, Jamie Lang and Harvey are still in the race. We'll be looking ahead to that final on today's show with Kevin Clifton and JJ Chalmers. I cannot wait. It's the only night of the week the kids are allowed to stay up.
Is it?
I don't think they actually like it, but they know that if they watch the dancing, they can stay up late.
If they sit quietly while Mum enjoys it. Quite a few of the papers have picked up on it this morning. The Mail's putting its weight behind Bill Bailey. If there's any justice, it must be victory for Bill the Old Bailey, it says. And they've got a picture here which chimes has personal resonance for me. It's all about Bill Bailey, but it says haircut from Grandad. Bill says it put him off having them for life. I used to get my hair cut by my great aunt, so I kind of have some empathy for it. And the other three challengers, Jamie, Harvey and Maisie here, along the bottom of the paper there as well.
Anton Dubek in the Daily Mirror saying anyone could win this year, but I want Bill to do it for the over 40s. Lots of support for Bill because of his age. I think he's in his early 50s, so he's hardly ancient. And he's just a brilliant mover, actually. He's got a fantastic sense of rhythm. He's a musician, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really good dancer. But also, like the odds this morning in the Sun, 8 to 11 on Bill, so obviously the favourite, 7 to 4, Harvey and Jeanette, 6 to 1, Maisie and Gorka, 50 to 1, Jamie and Karen. Maisie is a real victim of being brilliant.
Because she's so
from
good.
day one.
Yeah.
She's so good that it almost puts people off.
Well, they've all got a chance. That's the most important thing.
It's a great
talked to
lineup.
Mike before we started at 6 o'clock as well, because of course he was in the series last
Twinkle
year.
Toes.
And he says he's been watching avidly this series, which is great.
But it brings back lots of happy memories for him. Another Twinkle Toes for us this morning. It's Matt with the weather. How are you doing?
I am very well, Nina. Very morning to you both. Morning to you as well. I've got a little bit of good news in the weather this morning. Now, if you were across parts of Wales yesterday, relentless rain led to some swollen rivers. There are weather warnings in parts, sorry, I should say flood warnings in parts of Wales.
This is our planet Earth. It's where you crash landed. Beautiful, isn't it?
Not bad, but my planet's bigger.